Welcome to my wood shop here in the big woods of Northwest Missouri. I'm John DeLee, and thank you so much for coming along with me as we continue our journey into fine woodworking. Today I'm starting a new project. It's going to be a bunk slash loft bed, and we're going to develop that over a period of weeks and just bring it together and try to get it all made. Every project that I come up with starts out with some need or some desire, or maybe it's a need or desire by someone I know and love. Like in this case, my grandson. He called me up and he said, Papa, would you build me a bunk bed? He had seen one at his cousin's house, another one of my grandchildren, and he really liked it. So it's hard to turn down your grandchildren, and I said yes. And that began the process in my mind of how I was going to build this bunk slash loft bed. In fact, it was going to be just a bunk bed at first, but as I got to thinking about it and doing a little research on it and looking it over, I thought, you know, a loft bed would be nice too, or better yet, build something that I can change easily into a loft bed or a bunk bed, either one. And so that started the process. Now, as with most designs, in fact, every design that I do, it starts off with some type of idea. From there, it goes into a sketch. And you can see on that sketch there, that's just in fact, I would even call that a sketch. That's just a real rough notes and jots and overall dimensions and just to start formulating proportions in my head and mind. I did some more research on it, and that led me to another notebook page that I have. I carry a little notebook with me, a little sketchbook for ideas. And you can see here, that's a little neater, a little nicer. I changed some of the dimensions to make it fit standard material better. I'll get into that in a moment. And I did a little 3D, just a real light 3D postage stamp drawing right down here in the corner. Again, to start formulating ideas. That led to the next step. The next step was to visualize, get something in my head to be able to see it. Visualization is the ability to see in the mind's eye, and then implementation is taking what you see and putting it to work or to some project. And that's what I did here. I began to visualize. I began to take my visualization that I had in my mind and begin to sort of lay it out in some type of proportional, but not to scale, just to lay it out there, get some ideas out. I've got a top bed here. I've got a bed coming out at 90 degrees, so a loft. Notice I've got a little desk over here that's likely going to fold down and on a hinge type system and fold back up so it's out of the way. A little chair, simple chair. So that began to form in my mind. Then as I thought a little bit more about it, and those ideas began to solidify, I came up with a scale drawing. And this one here happens to be 1/4 of an inch equals 6 inches. I went ahead and labeled it, and I put down some design criteria, which I'll cover here in just a bit. Got some nice dimensions, again, changed those a little bit to make them utilize my standard material that I'm going to use a little bit better. Okay? And again, just put a shadow in the background of what a 3D would look like, just to see how it's going to look in space. Then from there, I developed some design criteria. And let me mention that as I get into this. So, as with most things, I want to be able to design something that is solid, simple, and functional. Some of my favorite designs, what I like when I look at furniture, I look at furniture designs, fine woodworking. I love the Shaker period, the arts and crafts period, and particularly green and green. I like the simplicity, I like the functionality, I like the clean lines and the balance. So that all went into my initial design criteria. In fact, the very first one I wrote down was functional, 2 beds, a desk, maybe a desk in the study area, and then I put pine dimension lumber, something I can buy at the local lumber store out of just pine material that I get. I also thought about maybe using some cedar also, so we'll see. You know, sometimes cedar has less knots and it's a little straighter. I want to get something that has more of a straighter grain in it, something that's going to function a little bit better for me on this use here. So that's what I began to think about as far as the design. The second criteria that I came up with was I wanted solid, strong joinery. So I plan to make good use of mortise and tendons, maybe even have a through mortise with a peg in it to hold the rails. Again, the arts and crafts, green and green type influence there. Probably some dado joints that I'll use to dado in the supports that will hold the mattress. Likely I'm going to build a small torsion box for the beds so that the mattress can sit on that, or box springs or mattress can sit on top of that, so it's strong and sturdy in that. I want something that I can take apart easily and quickly, but something that when I fit it together is going to be very strong. So that was some of the design criteria. Third design criteria, I wanted something balanced, clean lines. Anytime you go into a design, at least I do, I want something functional, yes, but I also want something that's aesthetically pleasing. And that means having good balance, good color, texture, it's all going to match in. Going with the golden ratio so that things look balanced. Golden ratio is something the Greeks came up with, 1 to 1.16. And it's sort of the way the universe fits together, if you can think of that. There's just things that we look at and we say, yeah, that looks balanced. The width to the height to the depth, it all fits in. That has to do with that ratio. So that was all in the design criteria. Plus, making my material that I'm going to buy of good use so I don't waste anything. So I made my sizes as efficient as I possibly could as I began to think through it. And then the fourth criteria that I came up with was I wanted to design something that when I finished it, it was going to look nice. It was going to bring out some of the grain of the wood. So I'm going to use some type of clear finish. I haven't decided on a stain. If I do a stain, I will likely use some type of grain sealer first and then go with the stain, just so it doesn't cover up the beauty of the wood, and then finish it with a clear finish. Now I haven't decided on that, whether I'm going to use like a polyacrylic or maybe some other type of finish, maybe a shellac. We'll just see as we go through. And then that leads me to this right here. So when I make designs and I come up with a design, remember, I don't think anything is completely unique. Very few things, I'll put it that way. Most things we get from other people. Like I got this bed here from another one of my grandsons, at least a basic idea. But from that, we take and we develop that, I do, and to become my own. It just becomes part of me. So I try to do as much design work as I possibly can here, but when I actually start building the project, that's where the creativity starts to come. Because then if I need to, I can change, and that's happened to me a number of times. If I make a mistake and I cut something not quite right, I can try to fit that in, not to waste it, and then the design may change. And there's a few other things I want to do. I want to use some different tools, for instance. So, one of the things I plan to do is I want to use this old molding plane that I picked up at an antique store, and I want to cut maybe a little decorative edge around maybe a piece of top trim. Now that departs a little bit from green and green and arts and crafts, but again, it's part of the things that I want to do. I plan to incorporate maybe some paint into it as well. My little grandson mentioned that as well. He would like some paint on it, blue, or possibly some gray on it. And I've got some other tools, maybe a number 12 scraper that I picked up. I've been just itching to use. Try that and see what that does. I've got a Stanley 45 and 55 up there. I may break those out and use some of that, and a scraper. So we'll see as we go along just how this project takes shape. You'll notice here that after I did my rough sketches here, I turned it into a CAD drawing as well. Okay, again, this is not complete. This is just in the formation stages. But you notice here, I took from the rough ideas, I started to refine that ideas, put it onto a CAD drawing, which made it a lot more efficient as far as getting my sizes and shapes and the layout of my spindles. And then I made a list, a materials list, and to get an idea about how much material when I go to the lumber store to pick it up that I'll need to buy. So that is the design criteria that I've come up with and the basic idea. So the next sessions we'll actually start getting into it. We'll get the wood, we'll start processing it and planing it, do a little planing on it, get it down to where I want it, start cutting it to size, and you'll see this bed, this bunk bed, loft bed, start to take shape. Thank you so much for coming along with me today. Thank you for being part of this journey. If you have any feedback I would like to hear, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below, ring the bell, and leave me a note and give me, maybe you've done some of this, you have some ideas, and if so, I may incorporate some of those into my next video. So thanks again for coming along with me, and so till we meet again, happy chips.